Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you're here with me today, and I'm so excited to offer an amazing guest, and I'll introduce her in a minute or so. But I just want to talk a little bit about the topic that we're going to get in today, which is talking to the animals. And you can see that my little animal is here joining us, licking me like crazy. So do you ever wonder what your animal companion, whether it's a cat or a dog or a bird or whatever, do you ever wonder what they're trying to tell you? And how often do they just know what you're about to do, or when you need a cuddle or a lick, as the case may be? And chances are, if you are watching this or listening to this right now, you probably already know that animals are sentient beings who can communicate intuitively. I'm sure that's not a surprise for most of you. And you probably also know that you're connected beyond going for walks and providing treats. Oh, I better not say that word. She lives for that word. You want to understand what they're trying to say to you. You want to understand why they're acting out. You want them to feel loved and safe and heard, which is why I invited this wonderful, amazing psychic medium channeler, Medium Mari, to be my guest today. And let me tell you a little bit about her. She is not only a psychic medium, she is a best-selling author, and she has won several awards for her mediumship and her animal communication. She has heartfelt connections, which I think is so wonderful, with departed loved ones and fur babies. You never know what to call them. It always sounds demeaning to call them pets, because they're not our pets. They are definitely our family. And she is so talented and so dedicated and so committed to her field. And she gives detailed readings, not just, these kind of superficial ones. And she trained with top mediums from all over the world, and she reaches people from all over the globe. And what I love about reading in her bio is that she really is grateful to provide these healing messages to both humans and our wonderful animal companions. I just think that's such a great statement. So, welcome, Mari. I'm so glad you're here. And hopefully we won't have any tech issues today. It's already.
I hope not. I hope not. But thank you so much for having me. It's my greatest pleasure to be here and to support your work. I think what you do is amazing, and I'm grateful to be able to be here to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is our furry friends.
Furry friends, good, yes. So let me first of all ask you, how did you get started in this realm, not only with animals but with humans and channeling? Tell us your story. How did that happen?
Well, it's interesting. I like to tell people that I was born this way because I had sort of always had this connection, but growing up in a rather traditional family, it wasn't exactly accepted that much. So I like to say that it was like my dirty little secret, and
Mhm.
I just sort of kept it to myself. But as a kid, I remember vividly talking to the trees, animals, like a little kid, like full. And when I got older, interested in so this was just always my world. But I thought and sort of felt because of maybe family pressure that, well, I can't do this for a living because that would be crazy, according to some people. So I didn't, I pursued a traditional life. I got married and I had kids and I went to school. I got my master's in social work and became a licensed clinical social worker. So I worked as a therapist for many, many years, helping people. But then, as I just kept getting a little bit older, my kids got a little bit older. So it gave me a little more of a break to sort of focus on the things that I was really interested in. And then a few different events happened. My grandmother passed, who I was very close to, and my aunt passed, and I was very close to her. And they started coming to me and they're like, "You're supposed to be doing this work." And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, am I going crazy here? Or like what is happening? Because I have people talking to me. Um, and I had seen mediums over the years just to get readings because I was always interested in the topic. And I saw this one medium from the UK around the same time, and he sat with me and he said, "Well, you're supposed to be doing this work." I
Mhm.
was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, no, that's not because people think about mediums and they fly through the air on unicorns 24/7 or something. Like, I'm a very normal person. I lead a normal life, and it just didn't occur to me that I would be able to be in this work. But as things progressed and I kept getting more messages from my loved ones, and I was just sort of felt more in tune with the whole environment. And I was like, okay, I guess I need to do this. But part of me was still a little skeptical. So, I guess some people, including myself, need to be hit over the head when something needs to happen. So I was like, okay, I'm getting messages. They told me I should do it. I don't know. But I was in an airport with my daughter. We were flying to a competition in Florida, and like a normal person, I had to use the restroom. So if anyone's ever been in an airport bathroom, especially Orlando, they're gigantic. There's 10,000 stalls and a million bathrooms. So I went into the restroom, and I walked into one of the stalls, and in this stall there was one tarot card, and all it said was trust.
Oh,
And I literally like threw my hands up in the air like this and said, "Okay, I get it." So after that, I just sort of started pursuing the work. And like you said, I figured if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it the best way possible. So I trained with, Tony Stockwell and James Van Praagh and Thomas John and Lisa Williams and just pretty much everybody that's really good. And I started doing the work. And like so many things in life, if it's meant for you, it will come to you. And so things just started working and snowballing, and I started getting clients, and it was amazing. And then I started with people, which I still do. About 50% of my practice is people. And then I'd heard some medium somewhere say, it's really hard to connect to animals. And I've been a vegetarian, I don't know, too long, 45 years. And then I switched to being a vegan. And so I'm thinking to myself, why would it be any different to connect to animals than it is to people? Because they're souls just like we are. And so I sort of almost took that as a little bit of a challenge that, okay, well, is it really hard? And then I started working with animals, and it's exactly the same, at least for me. I connect with them the same way as I do people. And in many ways, it's a lot easier because they are not filled with all the ego and the issues that people are. They're just very pure. And they're here on this earth to help us be the highest version of ourselves. So it's been an amazing journey and beautiful, beautiful work.
Wow. I love that sentence you just said. They're here to help us be the highest version of ourselves. I love that. It's so true. We learn so
Ab-
much from them. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us about a session with an animal. How does that work? And I guess a more important question, I was going to kind of save this, but it's coming to me to say it now. How I mean, when you give a reading to a human, they can give you feedback. They can say, oh, yeah, that's true. Or, yes, that was my uncle you were just talking to, or whatever. But an
Sure.
animal doesn't give that kind of feedback. How does that work? How does a session work?
Well, it works pretty much the same way as it does with a person, because if I'm having a session with an animal, his person is usually there. So it's, the feedback I get is from the person. But the way that I work, and again, every medium is different, so I don't claim to have the be end all be all answers on how to do everything. For me, I'm very clairvoyant, which means I see things energetically. And so if once I start sort of connecting, and I have all sorts of rituals to sort of get into the space, meditation, incense, etc. And then I just ask spirit to bring me whatever it is that their person or their animal needs to know. And I just sort of connect, and then spirit will drop in pictures or images or almost like little clips of movies into my energetic field. And so I don't see them with my eyes, I sort of see them internally. And then it's between me and the client and the fur friend in this case to sort of figure out what they mean. Like, many times I remember one of the readings I did a long time ago, and I just kept getting this picture of this fuzzy toy, but it was green and I could describe it, and it was fuzzy. And I'm like, well, it's not an animal, but it looks like a vegetable, which, to me seemed completely strange. Why would you, have this as, a vegetable toy? And then as I was describing this toy, the owner of the person was saying, oh, that was his favorite toy. It was a fuzzy cucumber that he loved. And so I just get the images. I'm the medium, I'm the in between. So I don't necessarily know what they mean all the time. Sometimes I will. Sometimes they'll like tell me. Sometimes they'll draw things out for me. Sometimes I'll get a smell or a feeling in my body if they're having some type of physical issue. But sometimes they'll just show me things, and we sort of have to determine, what that means to them. And that's sort of how the reading goes. I get the information. I ask, the client if they have any specific questions for their friend. I do readings on animals that are here as well as crossed over, because energy is the same. It doesn't change, it doesn't destroy or, not be present. And so it doesn't really matter. And then my readings for people are pretty much the same thing. I tune in, they give me messages and information, I pass it along to the person. And then between the two of us, we figure out what they're trying to tell me.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to tell you what happened to me several years ago. Excuse me, because it really fits with what you're talking about. Um, I was also trained as a medium,
Mm-hmm.
and I we had this wonderful dog. Her name was Sadie, and we had her for 10 years, and she transitioned, and it absolutely broke my husband's heart. She was his baby,
Mm-hmm.
and he said to me, we're never ever ever getting another dog. And I said, okay, because I kind of felt the same way, but life without a dog was very sad to me. And so he stuck by that for almost, let's see, 10 years. Every time I would say, well, is it time? Can we get a dog now? He'd say, never. I told you, never. So one night we were laying in bed and I was falling asleep, And all of a sudden, I saw an image of Sadie, the dog that had passed. And she very clearly said to me, "It's time to get another dog." And I got, full body goosebumps and oh my God. And I woke up my husband and I said, "Sadie just came to me and she said it's time to get another dog." And he looked at me and he said, "Okay." And the next day,
Wow.
went on a website, found a dog to adopt. This dog like came to me in the website. This is the one. I called the adoption place and I went and picked her up, and she's now the love of our life. And she has a
Wow.
lot of qualities that Sadie had, a lot. Some that are very different, but a lot that are very similar. And we often call her Sadie instead of Gigi. It's
Oh.
kind of like the same energy. So it was such an interesting experience. And, it took her saying that to me that allowed my husband to finally accept that, okay, it's time. And now he's like, that's his baby again. So yeah, they do hang out. They really do. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were talking about how your current dog has a lot of the traits of Sadie who crossed over. And many
Yeah.
times it can happen in a few ways, but sometimes like your animal, your past animal will come to you or they will lead you in some way. You're like, "Oh, I really feel like I have to go to the shelter today." And
Yeah.
go and you feel drawn to a certain animal,
Right.
and that is your beloved pet that crossed over. They're sort of helping you do that. And the other piece that happens commonly is that the when you get the new dog is that your dog that has crossed over will be there in spirit, sort of
Mhm.
helping to train up the dog that you have now.
Mhm.
So if you're like, "Wow, that's so weird that Gigi is doing exactly what Sadie used to do." It wouldn't surprise me to know that Sadie has come in and like, "Mom really likes this," or "This is a fun thing to do," because they work in tandem. The
Yeah.
spirit world works in tandem with this side to sort of help us progress and keep that connection as well,
Mm.
because Sadie knows how important it was that she was there for you and your husband. And so
Yeah.
she wants to keep that thread of love continuing into Gigi and with both of you now.
Absolutely, yeah. The other thing that happened is that I was meditating one night and my grandfather, who had passed years before, came through, and he had the dog that he had bought me as a child sitting on his lap. And it just moved me to tears. I said, "They're together in the spirit realm. It's just so sweet." So yeah, they stick together. They really do. So
Absolutely, and people always ask me, "Oh, are my pets, are they gonna be with me? Are they gonna be with my family?" Of course, there's no, like, separate pet heaven. I mean, I'm not the end all be all expert, but, the other side is all about love, and
yeah,
that's all it is, and whether you love animals, people, trees, elementals, whatever it is, that is connected to you on the other side.
yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about what our furry friends are here to teach us, and how do they do that? I know that I mean, Gigi teaches us all the time about love and give me attention, that kind of thing. But what about some spiritual messages? What can you say about that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Like I said earlier, our animals are here to help us be the highest version of ourselves. And so, what that means is, so say you're having a bad day, say you suffer from anxiety, and you come in the house and you're kind of freaked out, and whatever, you're dealing with stuff at work or whatever it is. Many times our animals will mirror that. So when you come in and they feel that energy of whatever it is, then your animal might start running around crazy or jumping up on you, or not just in the normal way, in the like, "Hey, pay attention to this." They're a mirror to us to say, "Wait a second, why is my friend acting this way? He doesn't usually act this way." So that in turn allows us to reflect on what we're doing, saying, "Oh, wait a second, maybe I brought this energy in here. Maybe I need to take a look at what's going on in my life to try to settle things out." So they are almost like, the fire alarm or the smoke alarm system to our soul. because they let us know ahead of time what is going on with us.
Mhm.
And that
Yeah,
can happen in a variety of different ways.
yeah. And they also pick up on our sadness too. My Gigi reacts when I'm sad. I mean, she immediately gets on my lap and cuddles and comforts and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they like cats, it's been scientifically proven that the purr of a cat is actually healing. And I have cats in my house now. I don't have any dogs right now. And we have horses, and that's a whole nother topic because they're especially healing. But the cats, anytime, I'm hurt, I work out or whatever, specifically one of my cats, but all of them. But there's one that I call my witch's cat. She's like gray, almost black. And whenever I do my reading, she likes to be around. So say I hurt my hip and I'm lying down, she'll come up and she'll sit on my hip. Or the next day, if I hurt my shoulder, she'll be on my shoulder. So they are aware because
Oh,
their soul is so much more evolved than ours. They really are on a higher level, which in many ways frustrates me because people are like, oh, stupid dog, stupid it's just a dumb animal. And don't get me started about the eating of animals question, because that's a whole
oh
nother topic.
yes.
Because that's just they are more evolved than we are, and so they actually deserve a lot more respect than they're given. But they have the gift of being able to heal us and to make us aware of sort of what's going on.
Wow. I had an experience with a cat one time. I used to work in it was a home office, and the owner or the renter of one of the rooms had this amazing cat. And I was just so depressed and so down and so in just a bad space. And I walked into the office one day, and the cat just followed me, sat, literally jumped into my arms, and just made me hold her for a few minutes. And the cat jumped down, and I was healed.
Hmm.
Oh my God. Wow.
Exactly, because they know, and that is also part of their purpose, and I can tell you, and this, can be a little sad, this story, but I think for me, it's really amazing is that I've read for many clients, and in my own life, I've had experiences that sometimes if someone is sick, someone is going through an excruciating time, like really, tragic terminal type of issues, many times I have seen that the animal will, in a sense, take the bullet for the person. There,
Yeah.
there are people that have been really sick that were supposed to die, and then their dog gets hit by a car, and then somehow the doctor's like, "Wow, I don't know what happened here," but that was divinely, intentioned. That was set up, and I know that's super sad. And believe me, I've been through similar things like that, and it is super sad. But to me, it's amazing that your animal has the ability to A, know what's going on, and B, to be able and willing to sacrifice themselves to save their human. And that absolutely does happen.
Yeah. And bringing animals into hospital situations so they can go from room to room and help people. They think they're just having a little visit, but they're really energetically doing something for that patient. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And I'm so glad that more hospitals and nursing homes are doing that type of
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
because it has helped a lot of people and healed a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So I was looking at some of the questions that you suggested, and one of them that kind of stuck out to me was you said something about, do you tell a pet to stop a behavior? So how does that work?
Well, it depends what's happening. I mean, many times if a pet is doing a certain behavior, it's usually because they're trying to tell you something. Like if
Mhm.
someone is saying, I remember I had this reading a long time ago with this woman. She said, It's so frustrating. My dog every night at, 2 in the morning, he's barking in the hallway and it's driving me insane and I don't know why it's happening. And so when I connected with her friend, this is a dog that was still living, I talked to him and he was telling me that there was another dog that was there in the hallway in spirit, and he didn't know who this dog was and it was scaring him. And he's like, "Hey, Mom, I need to alert you. There's a stranger here," because animals can see spirits as well.
Yeah.
So for them, it's just another friend or another person, and he didn't know who this was. And so when I talked to his person, she said, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense because when we bought this house, from this person, they had a pet that had crossed in the house, and they were very, connected to that space." And so I'm not saying that the animal was trapped or anything like that. I don't believe in that. I believe it's a lot of hubris for us to think that we as humans need to help other souls cross over, but
Mhm.
it's like an energetic imprint. And our loved ones and our pets can visit us as well. So this dog kept coming down and being like, "Hey, this was my house. Where are my people?" And the dog that was living there was like, "Hey, what are you doing here? What is going on? You are confusing me." And so once I was able to talk to the person, my recommendation was to talk to her furry friend, to talk to her dog, because our animals understand. I mean, you might talk to them and they might not listen to you. That's another story, but they understand what you're saying.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I have one of my cats and he loves to knock things off the table. And I've asked him many times to please don't knock my vase of flowers over, because it causes a lot of problems for me. And he will look me dead in the eye and knock the flowers over and be like, "And that's my problem. Why?" So, he hears me, he doesn't care. But a lot of animals will listen to you. So when I asked her to talk to her dog, she explained sort of everything that happened. So you don't have to be afraid. That's one of our friends that's visiting us from the other person that used to live here. And as soon as she had that conversation, the behavior stopped. So problem solved.
That's great. Yeah. But what about if it's just, I mean, I hate to call it a behavior issue, but what if it's just like my dog will just bark incessantly? Just bark, bark, bark. And I keep being told, oh, it's because she's a terrier and you can't train that out of them. But what about actual behavior problems?
Something like that. Well, I would say, depending upon the situation, if she's barking all the time, she might be trying to get your attention about something. Sure, just like some people like to talk more than others, and that's just there are certain things that are just, ingrained into people, dogs, cats, we're all souls. So there's certain things that are just sort of bred into us, I guess you could say. But if your dog is barking all the time, that's saying, "I need to tell you something. There's something you need to be aware of." It's not just, I'm just barking all the time because I feel like doing it. I mean, not in my experience anyway. Usually there's a message behind all the barking.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's good to know. So, what about if an animal companion, dog, cat, whatever, is about to transition? What do you tell people during that time? What do you recommend? What do you talk to with the animal about?
Yeah, it's really on an individual basis because there are some animals that really kind of prefer to be on their own before they cross. So I can't give a blank answer as, this is what you do for every animal, just like I couldn't say this is what you do for every person. So when I'm connecting with clients who are asking me this question, I connect with the animal and sort of ask them. So some want to be, alone. There are many animals that will wait, they want to be with their human till the last absolute second, and to the point of being incontinent, not being able to walk. And so then the balance becomes, I ask the animal, I'm like, "Well, is your human going to be okay with seeing you like that?" And some people are, they're like, I don't care what the situation is. I want to be with my friend.
Yeah.
So, but some people would be traumatized by that. So I talk to the animal about that. I talk to the person about that, and, sort of come to a meeting of the mind. So every animal is different, where some will go into a corner and cross, some will hang out forever because they want to be with their person. And some, have said to me, look, I know that, because they know this is just the body. This is like the outfit that you're wearing this time around, because we are a soul with a body, not a body with a soul. And, they're not as attached to being here as people are, honestly. And
Yeah.
so they've said to me, like, it's fine. Like, my body isn't working anymore. It's not really doing it for me. It's making my human suffer. It's usually mostly about the human. That's what I've heard from my clients, from the furry friends. And so they say, it's fine. I'm okay to cross over. So it depends on the situation, and each client that I sit with, there's usually some different nuances to that.
Just another quick story that just came to mind as you're
Sure.
talking. This is also with Sadie, the my husband's baby. Her health had really gone downhill. She was blind, she was deaf, she was
Mhm.
miserable. And he, of course, didn't want to lose her. Excuse me. And so, he would carry her everywhere. He was a massage therapist, and he would put her in the massage bag and take her to all the massages that he was doing. He was
Oh.
very, very attached. And one night he came home from doing a massage, and he put her on the bed with us because she always slept with us. And she looked at both of us, and she flew off the bed and landed and was pretty much gone. We rushed her to the emergency
Mm.
room, and they said, no. Clearly, she was committing suicide. It was so clear to us that she was like, I'm out of here. You guys aren't taking care of this. I'm going to do it myself.
Mhm.
So I thought that was what you were saying about them not being attached to their bodies. It was so clear to me that she was just done.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, and I wouldn't take it as like a negative towards you. It was just that, I don't want to suffer like this anymore. And many times our animals have a knowingness that we don't have. So
Yeah.
she probably knew she was going to get worse and worse and worse. And even though, you and your husband were super attached to that energy, she's like, this probably isn't going to be good for you, because you're going to see me decline and decline. And it's just like you can feel that suffering. And so
Yeah.
as you're telling that story, I can feel she was trying to release the both of you.
Yes.
It wasn't even about her, it was more about both of you.
Yeah. She said, you're not going to do
Yeah.
it. Okay. I'll take care of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to take a bit of a break. I am talking to Media Mari, and we're talking about amazing animal communication, and we will be right back. Stay with us.
Om Times TV.
Do you feel stuck in patterns you can't seem to break? Do old triggers steal your peace, leaving you frustrated or doubting your path? What if the real block isn't outside you, but hidden within? Subconscious fears and long-held beliefs can quietly shape your life, keeping you from the joy and purpose you deserve. For over 4 decades, Royce Morales has helped thousands uncover and clear those inner barriers. Her Perfect Life Awakening program is a spiritually grounded, transformational experience designed to shift your life from the inside out. Offered live and online in small, supportive groups, with personal attention and the option for private sessions, this work goes deep, gently guiding you back to your true self. It's time to move from triggered to empowered. Awaken the life waiting within you with Perfect Life Awakening. For more information, visit perfectlifeawakening.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
There she is. Welcome
Here I
back.
am.
Took a little swim in the pool.
That's right. I'm just toweling off,
Yeah. So again, I'm talking with Medium Mari, and we're talking about talking with the animals, and as Dr. Doolittle said, and I have a few more questions that I'm thinking about. What about getting information from our furry friends, like what's going to happen after the election, or what do you think I should do about this situation? Do they give advice like that or future predictions?
Not really. I mean, think about it. If you had, your Uncle Al and he was terrible with money and he crossed over, would you ask him how to invest your money? No, you wouldn't. So your pets don't give advice. Or I haven't, doesn't really work that way. And even, even in the spirit world, even people that have crossed over, it's like we have free will. So if they were like, oh yeah, by the way, this is who's going to win the next election, that would kind of mess all that up. So it's not something that they do. It'd be cool if they did. Can you give me the winning lottery numbers? I mean, that's what everyone says to me. And I'm like, hey, no, it doesn't work that way. I mean, they want you to use your powers for good, as it were. And the animals aren't equipped for that. And even say your dad was an accountant and he crossed over, he might have some advice about that because he knew about that on this side. But people that don't know about things when they were on this side don't suddenly gain a wealth of knowledge about gemstones or something when they knew nothing about them. So it's not something that usually happens.
But what about like deeper questions? Like, okay, what am I supposed to learn here in this human body? Or what did you learn being in a dog body? Things like that are deeper.
Sure. Spiritual questions, absolutely. I mean, you can connect with that energy. When I do readings, I do connect with that energy. And I've gotten all sorts of different answers. I mean, everybody is here. I mean, and this is, my belief and what I've heard from my spirit team is that we just sort of keep coming back until we have learned all of the lessons that we need to learn. And there isn't much of a difference between being in a dog body or a person or even a tree, some people would say, because it's all energy and we are all connected. So the reason that we're here is to make the world a better place, as cheesy as that might sound, to help others and to assist in the raising of consciousness of everybody, which means, being a good person, supporting people, trying to help people see like exactly what you're doing on this show. Like, this is happening, this is real. It's not, you're not cuckoo because, you think that your dog has some help for you or is healing you. These are real energetic things that happen. And so absolutely, when I connect with animals or people, they will definitely have specific advice for their person. But in terms of generic answers, it really is just about love and about raising the consciousness of the world, of the planet, of all beings, and for all beings to be treated equally.
Yeah, absolutely. So, which kind of leads me into something that people always say: would a dog be able to reincarnate as a person, or would a person be able to reincarnate as a dog or a cat? What are your thoughts about that?
And my feeling, and I've had many readings that show this to be true, is that absolutely yes. Like, I've had readings where, I'm talking to this dog, but I'm getting, like, as I'm talking to the client, I'm saying, I keep hearing, grandfather, grandfather, and he keeps showing me images of the grandfather and all of these scenes, and the client will say, oh my God, I always thought he was like a reincarnation of my grandfather. So absolutely. I mean, and some people might not agree with me, which is fine, but I absolutely believe, whether you're a person, a dog, a horse, it doesn't matter. We're all energy, we're all souls, and we all come, we're born into soul groups. So if you have someone, or like your little pet Sadie, it's more than likely you are all in the same soul group, and that you knew each other in a different lifetime, so that you have that connection. And that's why the connection is so strong in this lifetime, because you knew each other before and you had experiences before. And so when you're back again, it's like a reunion. You're like, wow, I'm so happy that we're connected. And so even though it's sad that you lost her, just know, and for anybody that's out there listening, that, any of your special people or pets that you are very connected to, you will be reunited with them again and reincarnated into your next life in some form, and you will still have that connection. It doesn't go away.
You keep mentioning here and there the word horse. Tell us a little bit about horse. I know there's horse therapy. It's amazing. One of my students was very involved in that. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's really fascinating.
Well, the horses are just almost like another level of attunement. They are, I'm not saying that they're better than other animals, but they have sort of a sense about them. And even though they're so big and they can be so spooky and everything, spooky in the sense of that they get nervous about, like, oh, so there's a flower. But they are very extremely sensitive. They're like the empaths of the animal world, and I mean, we have a couple horses ourselves. We've been involved in the riding community for a long time, and they know things before you do. If you're having a bad day, they'll come up to you, or, something will be happening, and they try to make you aware of what's going on. You're like, I don't know. I don't understand. Why doesn't my horse want to walk over to this side of the barn? Like, what's happening in this corner? And it doesn't necessarily mean that there is, something terrible happening. Sometimes they are just freaking out about the scary shadow. But many times, like, I've had horses, like, there's cracks in the floor and they don't want to walk over them. And I'm like, well, okay, they just could be scared of it. But when I connect with the animal, many times the animal will say, there's something there that has to be taken care of. And I did have a client like this, and they ended up digging up that part of the barn, and there was almost like a sinkhole that was under that part of the barn. So if they hadn't been made aware of it by the horse, that part of the barn would have collapsed. And so the horse kept getting up to that crack and was like, nope, not going to go. And of course, the owner's like, come on, let's go. You're just scared of the crack. And he's like, no, that's not what it is. And so luckily they were able to fix that, but they're extremely attuned, which is why they do equine therapy, with PTSD or vets or people that really need that extra layer of connecting with animals. And they've even started bringing mini therapy horses into hospitals and nursing homes, because
Yeah.
they just have that way of sort of knowing what's going on. And anybody that's ever, been a horse person knows that, because it's just, there's this really deep, they're just really deep, their emotions, like the ocean.
Wow. And so they take on the emotion that the person is unwilling to complete, or how does that work energetically?
Well, a lot of times, like I said, they're trying to sort of show us what's going on in the world. But yeah, absolutely. If you're grieving something, if you're injured, sometimes they can even show you, like, if you have some type of illness. I've also had a client where this horse kept kind of, nudging her in the side, and she's like, like, what is your problem? Why are you doing this? And it turns out that she had some type of medical issue over there that she's like, okay, I don't know why they're doing this, but I'm going to go get this checked out. And so the horse was like saying, hey, I want to let you know that something is going on here and you need to take care of it. And it's the same with the emotions. If you're The horse will know in 10, 1 second, as soon as you walk up to the horse, if you're feeling sad, if there's grief, you lost somebody, you're happy, like they feel it. They are like, um, you know, very open. Like I always like to say for myself, I feel like I'm walking around the world with no skin because I feel everything so much, which is good for my work, but maybe not so good for my own life because it's painful. There's a lot of things out there that hit you with no skin. So the horses are the same way in a sense. They are very open and very sensitive to all the things that are going on, and they're able to bring those to your attention. They're also able to absorb some of your issues if you're having them, your depression or whatever, but ultimately they want to help you transmute those so that you can release that from your body.
Wow. So, what about? I know that this might be, I don't know, I don't want to say it's a silly question, but I think it's an important question for people to realize that everybody can communicate with their animals. We all have that ability. So, what would you recommend to maybe enhance that or awaken that or give permission for that for people watching or listening this so that they can go and talk to their dog?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I tell people. It's like, I'm not magical, right? Everybody has intuition. Everybody has the ability to connect to the other side and to their pets and anything energetic around us. It's just a matter of training that muscle. Like if you wanted to be a bodybuilder, you couldn't sit home and eat Oreos all day. You'd have to go to the gym and work out and all
Oh,
those things.
darn.
So, although, that might sound good, but so in order to connect to your animals, you really have to do some training. I mean, I do offer sometimes some animal communication classes, as do,
Okay.
a myriad of other mediums online. But it's about
Wow.
getting into that space and getting centered yourself. So whether it's meditation or walking meditation or getting into a space where you're able to feel, because the connecting to the animals doesn't happen up here, it happens in your body. It happens in your heart space, your heart chakra. So if you're able, it's hard to explain over a short period of time, but if you're able to sort of center yourself, get into your body, and then just allow and ask the question. Say, okay, Fluffy, what do you want to tell me? And allow yourself to feel. In the beginning, you just may see a color. You might just get a feeling. You might get nothing the first few times, but you have to get out of your thinking brain oh, I need to go to the grocery store and my car is low on gas and those kind of crazy thoughts, and get into the space of your soul and your body. And so I say, take a deep breath, relax, allow yourself to fall into your body, and allow yourself to receive whatever messages you are getting. And so with practice, everybody is able to do that. I mean, not everybody maybe would be working as an animal communicator, but just like with the piano, some people can sit down and be a classical pianist and like that works for them because they have a natural gift. Some people, they can still play, but it might take them a little more effort. So it's available to everybody. And I encourage everybody to try to do that because you'll be surprised what your friends will tell you.
That's true. I
Yeah.
think the most important part of what you just said, excuse me, is learning to trust it. That at least that was the hardest part for me because I would get these things, like you said, as a child. I was getting I was talking to trees and talking to my dog and all of that as a child, and I just thought, oh, maybe something's wrong with me, and certainly didn't get any support from my parents from that. So it took years for me to really trust that, okay, maybe I am getting something important here. Maybe Sadie did come through to me. I mean, even now, 3 years ago when that happened, I still said, really, did I make that up? So until my husband immediately agreed to get another dog, I kind of doubted it. But yeah, it's all about trusting it. Definitely.
Right, exactly. Well, it's like what I tell people, either this, what I'm doing is real, or I'm a really good guesser. And I don't think I'm that good of a guesser. So this
That's
has to be real. You can't, the empirical evidence is there, time after
right.
time of getting all this information. So,
Yeah.
but it is hard for people. And there's certainly a lot of people in the world that, I don't go out of my way, when my kids were in school, I wouldn't go out of my way to tell their teachers that this is what I did because, oh, well, that's so and so's, crazy mom. And, I didn't want to go there for my kids.
Yeah.
But I feel like the planet slowly is evolving and slowly expanding, and there's more openness and more willingness to learn and understanding that this is not all there is.
Yeah. I think you're right. I know you're right that the planet is definitely shifting in that direction.
Thank
So
goodness.
I know, really. So you are also an author. Tell us about your books.
Well, my one book that I was looking for, which I wanted to show you, is called Heaven Sent. And it's all about how animals can help us evolve and be our best selves. And it's a multi-author compilation of stories of many people talking about how their animals have saved them and what they have taught. So it's called Heaven Sent, and that's available on Amazon. And that is for the animal lovers. That is a really sweet book. I love that book. I'm not even sure if I have any more copies, which is probably why I couldn't find one. And then my latest book is called Reflections, which I hope people can see.
Yes.
It is a compilation by Best American Psychics, and I have a number of chapters in there, just stories about how people are connecting to spirit and what that meant to them, and different stories of people's awakenings. And so if you are interested in psychic things, or there's animal communication in there as well, channeling, remote viewing, any of those type of things, this is a really great book because it's, they're short reads, and there's some very interesting stories. One of them in there by me about seeing a Revolutionary War soldier. So check that out. That is also on Amazon. They're also on my website, which is mediummari.com. If you'd like an autographed copy of the book, I can send you one as well, but they are on Amazon for purchase.
Wow. So we only have a couple of minutes left, and I would love for you to tell us a 2-minute story about the most amazing experience you had with an animal communication or any kind of an animal story.
Wow. Well, there's so many, honestly, like I have so many different animal stories that I can't even think of them all, but the one that's coming to mind happens to be about a horse. And so I'll try to condense it because it's a little confusing, but basically I did a reading on this one horse who had crossed. And the horse was very unhappy and told me, I can't remember the discipline, but he was, maybe doing roping or something, and he wasn't very happy doing that. The owner was saying, I knew the horse wasn't very happy. I really tried to make it work, but, it just wasn't working for me. So I eventually sold him to somebody else, and I don't know what happened, but the horse had already crossed over by this point. And so just so everybody knows, when I do my animal readings, people send me a photo. And so I work off the photo. And so, maybe a few months later, I get another request. I have a wait list for readings, unfortunately, for people that are trying to book me. But so I had another request. It was a horse. And I was looking at this photo they sent me, and I'm like, oh, the horse, looks kind of interesting. It's maybe a breed I've seen before, but I had no recollection, or I just thought, okay, another horse reading. And I went in and did the reading, and the horse was telling me, again, the horse was crossed. And the horse was telling me, oh, I'm so happy with my person. And, we were doing hunter jumper and I loved it. And the human that I was talking to was like, oh, I love this horse so much. And I ended up getting him from somebody else where he wasn't very happy. And I was able to really give him a good home. And, then he ended up crossing with me and I wanted to check on him. And so later on, after I did the 2 readings, I connected that it was the same horse. So I had done 2 different readings on the same horse, and the same horse was coming through and giving me this information. But he didn't say, "Hey, I used to be Mary Lou's horse." But when I was looking at it, I was like, "Wait a second. So you used to belong to this other person?" And so to me, that was fascinating that I was able to get such completely different information and accurate information about this animal when it belonged to 2 different people. And and getting all of their stories and putting the pieces together. And in the end he ended up with the right person and was very happy. But it was such a wonderful experience to see that even for the same animal there can be 2 very different energetic connections coming through.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's wonderful. Yay. So, in our last minute together, tell people how to reach you once again.
Yeah, well, the best way to reach me is mediamari.com. That is my website. All my socials are Mediamari. On Instagram, it's Mediamari888. But if you put in Mediamari, you'll see my face. So it's Mediamari everywhere, YouTube, Facebook, all the places, TikTok. And I would love to connect with you. If you want a reading, come to my website and get on my wait list.
Great. Thank you so much, Mari. Keep up the good, important work and change the world.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me on. I'm very
You're very
grateful for the
welcome.
opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will see everybody next week. Have a great week.